Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. I'm Edward Hunt, joined with
Mike Cunningham.
and we are the Meddling Kids. And today we'll be reviewing A Man Called Otto. For those of you just joining us, how we like to do things here when we review movies is we give you a spoiler-free review first. So if you haven't seen the movie, you're not sure if you want to see the movie, keep listening. Trust me, it'll be okay. For the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we're just going to talk about our overall thoughts of the movie. And then you can take that and then decide, hey, maybe I should see this movie. Or for some movies, maybe you should stay the heck away. And that's A-okay. From there, we'll give you a little bit of background about the movie. And then we'll dive deep into the movie, kind of like you're there with us. And then just give our commentary. But for right now, spoiler-free review. Mike, you ready for it?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's hear it. What do you think?
Okay, so A Man Called Otto, I give it a solid 3.
Okay.
I think it's a very sweet film.
Mm-hmm.
The performances are great. Obviously, Tom Hanks is America's Dad for a reason.
Yeah.
I really like the character of Marisol.
Yep.
She had to grow on me.
Okay.
And I will walk through it. But I think she brought a certain life to that character. Even her husband, Tommy. I feel like I'm familiar with the actor, but I kind of liked I think he was downplayed in the movie, but the characters were very funny.
Mm-hmm.
I think they all worked well together. The story was a little, like I said, it was sweet, but a little bit cliched, and I think that takes away from it.
For sure.
A little predictable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, all in all, I think the story was great, characters are great, but is it something I would have watched on my own? Probably not.
Okay. Yeah.
That's why I guess I appreciate the fact that we both suggest things. So it takes me out of my element.
I get to drag him to things. So it's fun.
Except for horror, I refuse. But it's not something that might have been on my radar, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just not something that I guess I would be drawn to.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't mad.
Yeah.
It was a very heartfelt story about obviously this character Otto and his what he's going through and currently in his life.
Yeah.
And you see how he interacts with people in his neighborhood, just the people in his life.
Yeah.
Where he seemed the tagline of the movie is interesting. It was fall in love with the grumpiest man in America.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you see he is grumpy, but there is he's still a sweet person.
Yeah.
It's just I guess it's hard for him to show his him caring or anything like that. It comes off as abrasive.
He doesn't know how to actually care.
Yeah.
As other people care. Yeah.
He reminded. That's why I leaned over and told you in the theater. He reminded me of Mr. Wilson from Dennis the Menace.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Wilson. He's the antagonist in the movie. He's no. This jackass lives across the street.
Yeah.
Terrorist.
Exactly. Yeah. And
I'm the victim.
And Mr. Wilson at the end turns out very sweet.
Yeah. But all in all, a very good movie. I guess a little long.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there was a bit parts of it I guess corny and predictable, but that's what you're gonna get in this genre, this type of film. But solid film. I'll definitely say go see it. It possibly for certain people it might bring tears. Not for me.
I cried.
And that's not me trying to be some, I never cried, anything like that. But I was it didn't draw that for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I can definitely see it. People you said it, and another friend of mine said it, that it reminded them of their grandfather or just people in their lives. And I think if you can relate that way, it definitely draws you in.
I'm offended he said just his friend, not my friend. Just because I met them for the first time the other day. We could be friends, man.
Anyway, I said, solid 3. Yeah. Definitely, I would say go see it.
Yeah. I'm going to give it 3.5.
Okay.
There was a lot. I was actually, at points watching it, I was is this a 4? But as Mike said, it's predictable. If you take it at face value, these people are caricatures of themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the characters are exaggerations of who they are.
Yeah.
You have Marisol, she's the super overbearing neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
You have the other neighbors they're just the utmost awkwardness of themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they do that for humor, and I get that. Maybe takes you out of it a little bit. And then it felt like they threw in a lot of things just as a way to kind of have social commentary a little bit.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that as we go along. But either way, as Mike put, I cried. It's a very touching, heartfelt movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Since I've gotten married, I have turned into a total softie. And
just the last year.
I've cried more this past year than I have on my wedding day and beyond. I've cried more since then than I have my entire life.
You gotta get that check, man.
But yeah, and there was also some even parts of the movie where you see Otto and you're like, if this is how you are, but that's okay. And I'll bring that up as it goes along. And that took me out of a little bit. But either way, it's a very sweet, touching, heartfelt movie. Watching it and walking out, it really made me think about my parents and my grandparents and my loved ones and my wife. It's important to cherish your friends and family and those you love and care about. And that's a great message for a movie to have. Yeah. And to have that emotional response to a movie is nice. Don't get me wrong, they totally did it. The beats hit, they were just like, we're going to make people cry in this movie. All the writers and actors were like, we're going to make people cry. We got this. But they succeeded, and to have that emotional response in a movie, I think I respect that, and I'll give it a 3.5. I would have potentially given it a 4. Again, there's just stuff that took it out of that as well. But again, solid movie. If you're down to feel a little bit, I'd say, yeah, definitely go watch it. But yeah, before we hop into a little bit of background of the movie and our play-by-play, a quick word from our sponsors. Still me. If anyone would like to be our sponsor, please, reach out anytime. We can talk. But I'm on the Just Be team of Compass Real Estate, which means I'm a real estate agent in the DMV. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home in DC, Maryland, or Virginia, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. I also have a ton of connections with contractors, handymen, plumbers, electricians, etc. So if you want to renovate your home, if you want to refinance, I have lenders. If you don't live in the DMV, but you're still looking to buy or sell a home, feel free to hit us up. As I work with Compass, it is a nationwide brokerage, and I can find you a phenomenal real estate agent as well. Also, we have other projects going on, and very excited to share those as time comes. But enough from our sponsors. Mike, you ready to dive in some background?
That I am.
All right, let's hear it. What do we got?
Okay, Man Called Otto. Came out January 13th, 2023. I think there was a limited release last year. I feel like a few movies, the movie from last week, The Pale Blue Eye, was released around maybe Christmas or something like that, and then got the official release in 2023 January. So it came out, released officially January 2023. Runs about 2 hours and 6 minutes, which at times can seem a little long, but it is not too bad. Budget was $50 million.
Okay, really? $50 million. Wow.
Which, I'm trying to see where. But
yeah, right? Is it because the set pieces and everything, I guess?
I don't know, because it's not like they went too many places.
It's because they paid Tom Hanks $30 million. I don't know how much they paid Tom Hanks, but they're like, all right.
No box office returns yet. Obviously, it just came out, so we'll see, in the coming weeks how well it's going to do. Currently, and like we said, this is in flux because it just came out, but the Rotten Tomatoes score, we have a 69 critic score and 97% audience score. That one they keep pushing. Every ad I've seen on YouTube, or even just like a Facebook or anything like that, they keep pushing this 97% audience score.
Yeah. So really, the message is, what do critics know? We don't know anything. All right, it's the audience.
Okay, like I said, directed by Mark Forster.
Okay.
Whose previous works were Monsters Ball, The Kite Runner, Quantum of Solace, which we talked about, and then Finding Neverland. So I think he's in that realm, I guess, at least with Finding Neverland, in that realm of and The Kite Runner as well, kind of tugging your heartstrings, kind of tell these deeper stories.
Quantum of Solace is the one where they do go back to his home. No, that's Skyfall.
Yeah,
never mind.
Quantum of Solace is the one that was very, very forgettable.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that was below in the Daniel Craig Bond series. Starring, this movie stars Tom Hanks as Otto, Mariana Trevino as Marisol.
Yep. Okay.
Not familiar with her work, but I am interested in seeing what else she's
I'd love to see her in more things after this.
Rachel Keller as Sonia, who plays a young version of Otto's wife.
Yep.
Manuel Garcia Ruffalo plays Tommy, who's Marisol's husband. Cameron Britton is Jimmy, the walking neighbor.
What was he in?
Umbrella Academy.
Okay, that makes sense.
I know this man's face. He hasn't been in too many films.
But he was in Umbrella
Academy, the first season.
Got you. Yes.
First season, yes. So it was I was like, I know that face. And then, as you mentioned last night, Mike Birbiglia, who is a comedian,
Mike Birbiglia
plays a real estate developer. I don't
Yes.
think they gave him a name. But.
And Tom Hanks' son, right? He's young Otto.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Is that why he looked exactly? Because I was going to say that when you were giving your review.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say the casting for a young Otto was like spot on.
Yes,
Tom Hanks.
because that was Tom Hanks' son. I don't remember what Tom Hanks' son's name is, but he played young.
Well, I know he has the two. I guess he has a third one.
I don't know. It was one of them.
There's Chet and the one.
Chet Bet. I don't know. Yeah.
There's Chet Hanks.
Okay.
And Colin Hanks.
I don't know.
Colin Hanks is like the actor. Chet Hanks.
I'm pretty sure I saw a couple Google headlines in an article. That said
okay, so no, I only know of the two sons.
I could be wrong, but if I'm not, I told you so.
A little trivia about this. A Man Called Otto. This is a remake of a Swedish film that was released in 2016.
And it was a book, right?
And it was a book.
It was a book, yeah.
And then, like I said earlier, the tagline is "Fall in love with the grumpiest man in America." The genre is comedy and drama.
It's a dark comedy. It is a dark comedy at times. It's funny, but I remember laughing. I was like, "Oh, that's dark." I'm laughing at some dark stuff. But cool. So that is our background on A Man Called Otto, and now we can kind of give a play-by-play. So to paint a picture, we go throughout, and then we get a nice picture of Otto. And where is he, Mike? What's going on with this man?
He is at, I guess, a local grocery store. I thought it was maybe like a
hardware store?
A hardware store, but I'm not sure if it's just hardware, but it's called Busy Beaver.
Busy Beaver.
And he's in some aisle, like measuring rope
and like just snapping.
Yeah, checking the tautness of it.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, okay. So a little bit of background as well. I do my best to have no idea what these movies will be about before we watch them. Like, obviously, I might see a trailer, but I don't do any research or anything. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, is he trying to kill himself?
Oh, really? I didn't get that.
As soon as I saw him like snap the rope like that, I was like, wait a second, what am I in for right now?
See, I took it as maybe he's just because as you see, he's an engineer, like very much into like mechanics and stuff like that. So I figured he was just like kind of a hands-on, kind of a man's man. You know, your Clint Eastwood. Okay.
a lot less racist. Yeah, is this movie?
But yeah, so he's at the Busy Beaver shopping for rope and different supplies. One of the employees comes over to try to assist him, and you get immediately this Otto does not like people.
Yeah. Well, he whips out a knife. He's cutting he wants to cut the rope himself, so he whips out a pocket knife and he's going to like cut the rope. And the guy sees this. He's like, "Whoa, hey, sir, how are you? I can do that for you." And he's like, "Do you not trust me to cut this myself? Get away from me, you idiot!" And he goes, snips the rope himself. He is you can tell. He's a grumpy dude. He wants to do things his way.
Yeah, it opened up immediately.
Yeah.
Then he has another exchange at the cash register because he only bought 5 feet, but they measure in yards.
Yes, they only sell by the yard.
Sorry. Yeah. So he didn't want to pay for whatever because he was like he would need another foot. To make it,
Granted, it's an extra 33 cents, and it's like, dude, it's at the end of the day, who really?
He's making a commotion, calls over the manager who happens to be like a fellow teenager or something like that. So he's coming stuff, but the guy in line behind him was like, I can give you the 33 cents. Like, can we just speak this?
But it shows Otto is a rule follower. Or like he likes, like a rule follower, he has his rules for life. And if he's like, I'm only buying 5 feet, do not charge me for 6 feet of rope. And that's kind of,
it really establishes him as a grumpy person, but also him as a very militant in a way.
Methodical.
The discipline, So after that, I think this is the next day. You see him wake up. So before his alarm goes off, maybe
at 5:30 in the morning, or 6:30 in the morning.
It was 5:30. Right?
It was 5:30. Okay, yeah.
Right before his alarm goes off, he wakes up and then he shuts it off. I think there's a little motion to the empty, empty side of the bed. So obviously he's suffered a loss. You don't know, what particularly,
but you see him. He's laying in bed and like his hands out to the right of him, and like in this empty bed. And they're like, okay,
to the left of him. Sorry,
to the left. Yeah, it's on his left. Stage right, sir. But yes,
well, I have invested.
Stage right, his left. You see him holding out his hand, and it's empty bed. So then I was like, okay, cool. He's a widower. All right,
Yeah, he has. You see, like him getting prepared. He goes downstairs to the kitchen, has tea, and you see there's 2 cups.
Yes,
he only takes the one. So obviously, these these signs that he suffered a loss.
Yes. Yeah.
And then he goes about his morning routine, his daily routine, which is like patrolling the neighborhood,
just being angry. It's being a grumpy old man.
So he's like taking like recycling out of like the trash cans.
Yeah.
He's, I think,
which time for the record, if we're at this time, he's very concerned about the
environment.
The environment. Thank you. He's very environmentally concerned. He's like, paper doesn't go, like tin foil doesn't go in, or tin doesn't go in the paper. Paper doesn't go in the tin. So he's organizing the recycling that other people have done because he has rules and regulations. And this recycling is for paper only, not for tin cans.
Right, Otto,
we get it. Yeah, no, it's very much okay, Otto.
There's like stuff to do with like the parking as well.
Yes.
I think making sure you had the whatever permit.
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw this and like saw all of this, I'm like, he's not completely wrong.
He's not, but it's very much like the leader of the homeowners association, which ironic,
which he was.
Yeah. But it's just like it's the reason why people don't want to sign into those. It's like, bro, I pay, like I don't either rent or like I'm owning here.
Yeah,
get out of my
dude. Yeah, like if I had to deal with a homeowners association president like him, I'd be blown.
So during his round, you also get to meet several of the neighbors. So you meet Jimmy, who we mentioned earlier, who's like. Maybe a heavy set fellow, but very health conscious. So he's taking his daily walk.
He goes for his daily walk, but he's just like super like lunging along. He's like doing he's super awkward, very funny.
And I think that's what you were talking about as far as all of the characters in the neighborhood are very much caricatures. So they're very like their personalities are kind of blown up to an excessive
100% or 120%. Like if you're going to have the kind of weird, awkward neighbor walking along, that's
and I think that it's very contrasting, right? You have this grumpy old man. He might not even be that grumpy, but if you have everyone happy and shining a light, it really it makes Otto seem more and more dark and kind of bitter. Yeah. You meet. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Well, I was going to say, but at the same time, and then going in, all these like. Goes along the point. All these neighbors still say hi and kind of like him. Like they're just like, "Hey, Otto, how are you?" And so he's even with him being super grumpy, everyone still checks in and talks with him.
So you have the lady. I think he notices like this dog. The dog had peed on his front lawn.
Yeah,
and you meet the dog and her owner. You meet the owner's boyfriend, who was like another one, I think, going out for a jog and like stretching excessively and very tight,
He's wearing all the tight, like neon spandex and like you can he's like stretching forward. You can see like the bulge and you're like, okay, he's excessive. So again, everyone's a caricature.
Yeah, I think you also meet the newspaper boy or no, and there's later.
That's later.
Okay. Yeah. And then there's a stray cat that he sees.
Yep.
Sorry. And then he goes to work. So after he does his rounds, he goes off to work. And there you see he's working at some manufacturing plant?
Yeah. He's an engineer.
He's an engineer, yeah.
It's some manufacturing plant. There's a lot of heavy machinery going on. Yeah. He walks into the office and...
they're celebrating his retirement.
Yes.
Because apparently, I think there was a merger, and I think he had trained, I guess, some guy, and now he's being replaced. No, he had trained someone, and then they made that person his supervisor. Yeah. So he was like, "Oh no, we're not doing this."
Yeah.
So he took the buyout.
Well, they basically forced him out.
Yeah.
And they cut his hours. They did all of this, which he very grumpily at his own retirement party. He's like, "Well, I don't want."
I think that's another. I don't know if it's a movie thing or just like an actual like human being thing. But it was like you were saying, everybody else in this world like doesn't react to his grumpiness.
No, they're just, that's all that.
It's like, even because at work, in the neighborhood, like for the most part, it's very much ignored.
They just know,
which was interesting.
Yeah, I think it's because
you would think like somebody like that you just avoid, or there would be some kind of like, we don't really mess with Otto like that. It's like cordial, but it's not like jovial about him being around.
Which I think is a good sign that shows, even though he's like this, everyone knows that's just who he is, but that doesn't even necessarily mean he hates you or he's angry with you. That's just who he is as a person. But he still makes sure to get everything done. Like everyone in the home, in that neighborhood, they all know that Otto is kind of looking out for them in one way.
Yeah.
People at the office, a woman, she was like, that will miss your super tight schedules that he sends out, because Otto's like, all right, from 10 to 10:30, we're doing this. And so people like, they know that's just who he is. And in certain aspects, he's efficient and he does stuff. Again, like even though he's super grumpy, from all of these first early interactions with Otto, I'm like, okay, I'm cool with this. Like I know people like this. Yeah, and they're not bad people. They're just people. They're just very set in how they are as people. Yeah.
So I think this is where you see he goes home and he starts preparing, like cleaning up, and he's preparing for something.
Yes.
So he's like cutting off his gas and electric.
Yep.
I think it's maybe the 6th because he mentioned like I'm only paying like going back to the whole rope debacle. I'm only paying for 6 days.
Yeah. Well, it's because he's cutting off his electricity, he's cutting off his phone, and he's trying to cut off the gas to his home as well. But he's
so that didn't go through.
So
that's why Malcolm says to cook later. Okay, that makes sense.
Because even though he's trying to cut all this stuff off, the gas company is telling him, well, we charged you, we won't give you any money back. Otto's trying to get the 6 days remittance payment from the gas company, and the gas company's policy is we don't do that. So then Otto's like, well, then don't turn it off, but turn it off at the end of the month, because if I'm paying for these 6 days, then I expect my 6 days of gas, which is hysterical and really dark because what's about to happen next?
Now, does he try it and then he meets the family, or does
he tries it and then meets the family? I'm pretty sure.
So yeah, I think what it is.
No,
I think he stands up. Yes. He goes to it. So the whole thing is that he bought rope to hang himself. So he gets dressed up in a nice suit. He grabs his quarter, which we'll understand the significance of later. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
And he kind of prepares himself to commit suicide. And then as he steps up so he puts out newspapers. He steps up on the coffee table, and then he sees out his window some guy trying to park in the across the street. And once again, Otto being a stickler to the neighborhood, he makes sure he lets people know this isn't a throughway. You can't just come around here. You can't park if you don't live in the neighborhood.
And the guy also has no idea how to park a trailer.
Yes. So he goes out, and this is where you meet. He thinks that they're trying to they're just trying to park there without living in it. And he meets the new neighbors from 206, Tommy and Marisol. So Tommy is attempting to park this trailer, and he's having extreme difficulties. Otto's like, "All right, fine, get out, let me do it." And as he gets in the car, I think this is showing once again, Marisol runs a family. Tommy is like kind of this bumbling idiot, lovable idiot. Peter Griffin,
and like he cares.
You're Homer Simpson.
He tries to do what he can. He doesn't fully know. But
So Otto gets in the car, and as he's attempting to properly parallel park the car in the trailer, he meets the children and Abby and Luna.
Yes.
And they have a nice exchange. And once again, like you said, you can see that he's a little abrasive or something. Like there's maybe stoic or something like that. Don't know how to explain his demeanor, but there is still a heart in there.
Yeah.
Right? So he's like, he has a cute exchange with the girls because they can't say his name.
Yeah.
So he spells it out for them or whatever. And then he successfully parks the car.
Yeah.
And goes back to his house.
And then just super grumpy. He's like, that's how you park a car. Here are the keys. And he just storms off.
And I think he's frustrated at the fact that it's one of a newer car that has like a rear view camera and lets you know that
all the beeping and radar. And he's like, if you can't drive without a radar, don't even bother driving at all. Like, get out of here. And he just storms off. Even though he just did a super nice thing and he was super helpful, which I think goes back to what we said is everyone knows Otto's super grumpy, but they also know that if you kind of need something, he's probably going to do it for you or going to be there to help out. Yeah.
So I think he goes back to his house and I think you see that there's a coat rack opposite the front door. And there's a bunch, obviously there's a spot for his coat, but there are coats you see that are possibly for a woman.
Yeah, a woman's coat, woman's hat, women's shoes, I think might be there too.
And I think because it's seeing the coats and also the exchange with the new family, I think he sees flashes of when he first moved into the house with his wife, Sonia.
Yep.
And then I think shortly after, Marisol and Tommy come over to give him food, like I think a Mexican dish or something.
Was this before or after he attempted?
I think this is right before.
Was it? Okay. Yeah.
I think
that's right. Because they come over, they give him the food, and
attempts.
So he eats it, and then
I can't remember if he ate it before.
He ate it right before, and then he attempted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, they bring him over some Mexican dish to say thank you. And kind of welcome him to the neighborhood. He eats the food, really enjoys it.
And he enjoys it. It's like this chicken mole dish because Marisol is like, she's a phenomenal home cook and everything. Yeah. And Otto's very, that was something with the entire movie, and I'll continue to mention every time I see. You see this he's a grumpy old white dude, and part of me watching this, when she gives him chicken mole, I'm like, is he just going to say, I ain't going to eat this? But no, he's very open-minded.
And as Andrew just said, I'll bring something up about that later that I noticed. But So yeah, he eats the food and then he continues with
he enjoys the crap out of it, and then
so I think this is what you're talking about, that darkness, a lot, not knowing what the movie is about going in, because you do see a man trying to hang himself.
Yes,
and like it's not as graphic as you would think, right? But it is still like very. It can be. I guess it could be triggering.
It could be, because he literally like. Also, just the dark humor. The man gets super dressed up. He's dressed to the nines. He makes sure to take care of the home. He has the newspapers under him, as Mike said. And then he even made sure to cut off his electricity and told the gas people, well, I'm not going to pay for 6 days, while planning to kill himself. So it doesn't even matter. But hey. And then you see him kick the table out, and he's hanging. Yeah.
And like I think he's getting flashes of his wife, and like just kind of that whole year life flashing before your eyes.
Yeah.
And then... luckily for Otto, the rope, not the rope breaks, but the screw
anchor, anchor, which holds it to the ceiling, goes through the drywall ceiling. It's just, he falls down, and he didn't die this round.
And then I think once again that levity between something so serious and triggering to like, so he falls on the ground, and he had, like you said, he had put out newspapers, I guess, to make sure that the house is still clean.
Yeah.
And he notices there's a sale for flowers, like 2 for $8 or something like that.
Ridiculous.
So he takes out the coupon, and it was just like, what are you doing, movie?
Yeah, he was like, you just tried to kill yourself, and you're like, ooh.
And like I said, it was interesting, like the dichotomy in that situation. So then, because he's failed his attempt, he goes to buy flowers, and then he goes to visit his wife's gravestone.
Yes.
And has, conversations with her.
And literally complains. He's like, and you can't even screw things in the ceiling anymore. You're complaining to your dead wife you couldn't kill yourself.
I'm telling you, Mr. Wilson,
man.
So then I think he has a flash to, I think he's in a doctor's office.
Yes.
And like he's meeting with a doctor, and the audience finds out that he has a heart condition. Basically, I don't know that, I'm not a medical professional or anything like that. But
what? You're not?
Oh yeah, that physical was off the books. But you find out that he has an enlarged heart, and he's very much aware of it because his father had
it's like hypotrophia. It's something. Yeah.
But his father had the same condition, and that's how he had, ended up passing.
The problem with Otto is his heart's just too big.
And so because of that, he fails his military physical.
Yeah.
And on his way, he's, on his way back home, he's, on the train platform, and he notices a very beautiful woman across the platform running, I guess, to
catch a train.
And she drops a book. And I don't know if that the relevance of the book is necessary. It was called The Master and Margarita.
I have no idea.
I tried to look it up. It's basically, I don't know. So the devil visits an atheist in the Soviet Union or something like that. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
I thought, but see, maybe in the novel,
it means something.
It means something, right?
Because I flashed to it a lot.
Yeah, they did. They did. It flashed to it, her reading it, and him still having a copy of it in the present day. So I don't know if there was relevance to it. I'm not big on like books or like literature like that, so I wouldn't know that.
This was set in the 60s, so it couldn't have been Harry Potter. So it's got to be something. So that's what they read.
And so he notices she dropped the book, so he skips his train and picks up the book, boards the train that she was on, and finds her and returns. Well, he notices her, stops, and then doesn't say anything, and she notices her book in his hand.
Yeah.
And kind of like jumpstarts the conversation.
Because he's awkward, doesn't really know how to talk to people, even as a young man.
And so he returns the book. They have, a cute exchange, and he kind of sits down. And the conductor comes asking for tickets. He has a ticket, but not for that train.
Yep.
So he's like, I'm so sorry, I'll get off at the next stop. And he has to buy a ticket for at least that one stop.
Yeah.
And I think it costs $1.75.
He only has $1.
He only has $1, and a little bit of change, or no?
He didn't have any change.
Okay.
She gave him all the change he needed for that.
Got it.
Yeah, she gave him like a handful of change because she watched him fumble around for a little while, and then she's like, "Hey, I think I have some change." And
so she gives him the remaining change he needs, but there's a quarter left over.
Yeah.
And he goes to give it back to her, and she goes, it's because it was silver?
1964 quarters, completely made of silver. I don't know coins, but apparently the movie told me this.
So she tells him to keep it.
Yeah, you must be lucky. It's your lucky coin.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this is the quarter we see him, like he had it on his person when he attempted attempted
whenever
suicide.
he leaves the house,
Yes.
he always grabs it, puts it in his pocket. He's kept it since he met her. Like, I guess that would have been like 50 years ago, 50, 60 years ago. Yeah.
And so I think the flash ends there, and then you see him returning the Tupperware to 206 and kind of doing his patrols.
Yeah.
And he has an exchange with the developers.
Yes. Mike Birbiglia.
Canadian Mike Birbiglia. He has, and it's called Die America or something.
Yeah,
like
which
that.
it was
super weird. It was like that just translated over from Swedish.
Well, they made a joke in it. They're like, "Die in America." That sounds like Dying America. Why would you name that? And it's true. Like, that is a terrible name for a real estate company.
That's definitely a Hollywood thing.
Yeah.
And then I think so. He gets a bang on it. I think this was pissed me off about these new neighbors. One, they couldn't just move in.
Yeah.
Okay. It was very much like everybody needs to know they're moving in. They're being disruptive.
Or at least just him. I don't know. Like, they're just super friendly people. But
I don't know. They kind of pissed me off. Like I said, she grew on me, and I love her performance like later on. But it was like initially, it was just like she was abrasive in the other way of Otto, right?
Yeah.
It was just like kind of very pushy.
Yeah, very pushy friendly. She's just like, I'm gonna be friends with you. You're gonna like me. I'm gonna like you. It's gonna be great. But they come. Tommy and Marisol come over to borrow a ladder because Tommy notices that one of the windows, the upstairs windows, isn't opening. So he's going to use a ladder to try to open the window from the outside. And even Otto's like, so you're all right? Okay. All right, good luck. Good luck with that. You can borrow the ladder, but good luck with that.
And then while he's giving him the ladder, because he has to go to his garage, and we meet Anita, his neighbor, who I think who was good friends with he and Sonia when they first moved into the neighborhood.
Well, then you learn more about this, and we'll get to that time. But so like they were really good friends. Him, Anita, and Anita's husband, Ruben.
And I think he also starts setting up this second attempt. He doesn't do it yet.
Is the second attempt the hose?
Yes.
Yeah. So then he does.
So he goes. We meet Anita first, and then he goes over to her house and said, because Anita asked him about the fact that since Ruben is kind of, I guess, immobilized or something like that. He's possibly had a stroke, so he can't really.
It seems like a stroke. He's confined to a wheelchair. He can't really talk.
And this is when, this is something I just noticed slightly. When earlier in the movie, when Otto's patrolling the neighborhood, he looks over at the house and he sees Anita feeding Ruben. And I initially thought it was just like you have this new couple moving in, and that's why you have flashes of him moving in with Sonia, and then you see this older couple and kind of. They're in the later stages of their lives, but they still have one another. So it's just like kind of that duality of the beginning of a relationship and also the later parts of it. So he goes over because Anita had asked him to help, I guess, bleed the radiator.
Yeah, bleed the radiator. So the radiator, hot water goes through. That's how heat gets emitted from it. But too much water builds up in it, then it might stop working. So you need to bleed the radiator, which is just taking some water out of the radiators.
So in exchange for bleeding the radiator, he asked for his hose back.
I had no idea this one was coming.
Me neither. I was like, Otto is so petty. Like, I mean, once again, it is his property, but it was just like, it's so petty.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense because that's Otto. He's like, I'm going to help you out. And like, this is something you need, but you have something of mine. Make sure you give it back first. And I was like, okay, that's just Otto. Oh, silly Otto.
So he bleeds. And he has an exchange with Ruben.
Yeah.
And you can see that there's a kind of a tension between them.
Well, so he has an exchange with Ruben, and he's telling Ruben, he's
like, he's just talking to Ruben.
He's talking to Ruben, so there's some kind of history. You don't know what the history is, and he's telling Ruben, he's like, well, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get out of here for good. And then on his way out with the hose, Ruben grabs it or grabs his hand. He grabs the hose, and then Ruben hasn't moved in a while, really. So then they're just like. Anita and people were like, Ruben, what are you doing? What's going on? So Ruben knew something was up.
Oh, okay.
Ruben knew something. Okay. Because, and then you get this later on in the movie, like Anita and Sonia were best friends, and then Ruben and Otto were as close to best friends in the neighborhood as you could be because they were very similar. So Otto talking to Ruben like this tips Ruben off.
Got it. Okay, that's interesting.
And that's how I looked at it. And that's why, even though Ruben hasn't been moving, he's getting fed by Anita, etc. Ruben knew enough to grab the hose and try to stop Otto in one way.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So he takes the hose. I think he tapes it to like his the
put it in the exhaust pipe of the car, and then put the hose in the car so he can carbon monoxide.
Yes, so he's in the garage. He's attempting a second attempt at suicide, and now he has visions of Sonia again. And now it's their second encounter on the train platform because Sonia had mentioned during their exchange when they first met that she goes to visit her father every Thursday. Mm-hmm. So he knows kind of where she'll be. He wants to see her again. Yeah, and so I think they were both hoping to see one another. Mm-hmm. And because he said he wanted to pay her back for the train ticket. And she says, how about you ask me?
How about you take me to dinner?
How about you take me to dinner? Yeah. And I really like you don't get too much of Sonia, but I really, you can see why she brought out understanding who Otto was up front, like literally in a split second, in a way.
And I'm not condoning this in a way because I know it can be potentially taken in a different way depending on how you're looking at it. But Otto is a guy who is very rule driven. He's very keeps to himself. He needs this kind of stronger woman to kind of like take charge. And that's reflected in Sonia, and then that's reflected in Marisol. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that's an excuse for guys to just kind of wait around and do nothing and just wait for that or then get angry because women aren't taking charge like that. But that's Otto as a character does better with dealing with these stronger women who know how to associate with him and know how to talk to him.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then you see them on their first date. It's a very nice restaurant. Yeah. I think he mentioned that she was 15 minutes late. So once again, back to the stickler for...
and she's just like, oh, was I? And they just go in. Yeah.
And then so he starts talking about kind of like his dad taught him, about cars. He had passed away recently. Sorry, no, go ahead.
Oh, you also see that Otto only ordered the soup.
Yes.
And Sonia actually got an entree. Yeah. And Sonia notices that as well. Yeah. And because with Otto, she's like, well, why didn't you order an entree? And because Otto's like, well, I ate at home. And then because she was like, well, why did you do that? And Otto said, well, that way you could order whatever you wanted because he reveals he's not in the military. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't know what he's doing next. But he wanted to treat her right. Yes. And he wanted to make sure... So he's a very earnest guy. He's an earnest old man. He was an earnest young man. Yes. He wanted to make sure that even if he couldn't necessarily provide for himself like that, this was going to happen. So he's like, I'm sorry, I should go. And this goes back to like a strong woman. He stands up to leave. She grabs his sleeve. She kisses him right in the middle of the restaurant. And this is like in the 60s or 70s, man. All right? This ain't the 80s.
It was very corny. Like, it was a cute moment.
It was super cute.
But it was the reaction to the rest of the restaurant. It was like, he didn't propose to her.
Just hey, man, again, this is like the 60s. All right, people don't do that kind of stuff, I guess.
But no, something I wanted to note when he was like talking about, he was like very passionate about cars and just mechanics and engineering. And he says, I like knowing how things work.
Yes.
And I think once again, you can see that very much with every aspect of his life, not just cars and things like that. So once he's in the car, he's having these visions because he's attempting suicide.
Yeah.
And I think Marisol banging on the door. So he's like, it's very much a, can you let me die?
Yeah, just let me die, woman, for the love of God.
So he opens the garage door and Marisol is like, you have to drive me to the hospital.
Because Tommy fell off
Because Tommy, the smooth dum-dum, fell off the ladder. The ambulance is taking him, to the hospital, but she needs a ride.
Yeah, because much like Ruben, Tommy knew Otto was going to try and do this. So I'm kidding on that one. He did not know anything.
Otto has to drive her because Marisol does not have a license. Yeah. So he takes her and the two girls to the hospital, and as Marisol is attending to Tommy, Otto is watching the kids, and once again, you see another one. He's
another side of him.
Yeah, he's very much like, so he's reading to the girls in like, I guess this children's area of the hospital, and they're like, "No, you're reading it wrong. You have to like
read like a bear."
And then so he's, he kind of resists at first, and he's like, "All right, fine." So he does the bear voice to sound like big and scary, and then I think the owl and other things, and you see these sweet moments of him exchange with the children. Yeah, and then.
Clown deserved everything he got.
And then you get the exchange with the clown, who is obviously, in the hospital, you have children there and different levels of different ailments. So like you have a clown there to, bring them joy. So he comes in and he's a bit mocking Otto, but like nothing too bad. And then he wants to do a magic trick for the girls. It was like, so do you have a quarter? Mm-hmm. And as we know, the audience, Otto constantly carries a quarter around. Yeah. Now, I was actually surprised he gave it to him.
Well, he was very emphasized because the little girls wanted to see a magic trick. Yeah. So that's another way of like humanizing Otto. The little girls want a magic trick, so Otto's like, all right, for them, we can see this magic trick. But
I was truly surprised that he actually gave it to, like, because I would think he was just like, well, I mean, like you said, he does say, I need this back.
Yes, exactly.
And so, like, he does the trick. He makes the coin disappear and then reappear behind Otto's ear, and he gives Otto back the coin, and Otto immediately notices this is not.
We flash to him, and we flash to cops talking, or like the hospital security talking to him, and like that happens. We flash to that, and it's like, what's going on? And then we see, as Mike said, he notices immediately that it's not
the quarter the coin that he gave, the one that he saved from his first meeting with Sonia, and so. Otto, I think he rips the clown's like collar or shirt or something like that. Yeah, because obviously it's just sleight of hand.
Yeah.
And he finds his actual.
He gets the quarter. Otto's kind of an aggressive dude.
Yeah,
there's multiple situations where he resorts to violence in this movie. So I guess trying to be like he's a grumpy old man from a different time, stick. But also I will say he told the clown, "I need my quarter back." Yo, I get it. Yeah, that clown was a dick. All right? I'm on Otto's side for this 100%.
And then, so after this exchange at the hospital, he goes and tries a third attempt at suicide. Yeah. This time he's going to step in front of a train, which is, I guess, symbolic because he met Sonia on a train. So he goes to the platform, and he's right because the platform's pretty full. Yeah. Not like it's a rush hour or anything, right? But a pretty full platform. Yeah. And right as he's about to step off, an older gentleman. Yeah. Collapses and falls onto the tracks. So Otto's like, oh my, this guy's stealing my phone. Yeah. And so Otto being Otto, he jumps down because, and this is, I think, what you said earlier about the commentary the movie was trying to make. Instead of people trying to assist the older man, because he's falling onto the tracks and he's like kind of just stuck there.
There's a bunch of young people on the
and they're whipping out their phones, they're videotaping, but they're not trying to help. And that's interesting. That's been my commentary oftentimes about this current, I don't want to say generation, but just the way society is now. I'm not going to point towards a certain demographic, but the way society is now, it's very much let's document this rather than being proactive.
Yeah. I saw that and I was like, oh, of course we have to like dig at people like that. I would like to think that people, like I would jump down to try and help.
But yeah, you got to realize like there's documentation of so many different things. So obviously somebody's doing it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. There are a lot of people that do that. But I saw it, I was like, man, all right. It felt like a dig. It felt like a dig at the young people. And I was like, come on.
Then it bounces out fairly well later.
Yeah, exactly.
So Otto jumps down. He gets the man back up on the platform because there is a train approaching. Yeah. And since he's down there, he just stays.
He's like, well, I'm down here.
And this is where you see, I think it was a quick flash of his graduation from, I guess, engineering school.
Yeah, so he went to engineering school, so he figured out what he was going to do with his life.
And when they're in the car, he asked
Sonia to marry him.
But she says, and it was interesting talking about her being like kind of a strong woman. She was just like, no, ask me correctly.
Yeah, because he's like, hey, what do you think about marrying me sometime? Not even looking at her. So she's like, ask me again correctly. So then he
looks over. Thank you, Mr. Abercrombie. Give me the blue steel. So he asked her correctly, and she says yes. He's very excited. And then he jumps back to current time. He's still on the train tracks, and some man is saying, take my hand, take my hand.
And of course, it's another older gentleman. Too. And I was like, why couldn't it have been like a younger person trying to help him?
They're too busy on the TikToks.
The TikToks and the Instagrams and your Facebooks. Yeah.
Book faces.
Your book faces.
So the man pulls Otto up, and now he's like very grumpy because of the fact that he was like, I just wanted to die. Yeah. And he's walking away, and people are saying, you're a hero. What's your name? And like you see the younger people for the most part. Yeah. Recording. And then there is the one group of girls like, turns the camera and says, follow us on whatever, or something like that. I like it. I get to what you're saying about the digs. So he goes back to his car. He's sitting in his car, and Marisol knocks on the window. Once again, aggressive as shit.
Yeah, that's what she does. Yeah. She's just very straightforward, all right?
And she gives Otto a picture that the girls had drew of him,
adorable.
Which is very cute. And it's like and it's something I noticed, and we'll we'll jump back to it later, but she says they always draw you in color.
100%. That was a great little nod.
Yeah, and it was just like, he was like, always, like, how many pictures are there?
Yeah.
Take them all down.
But it's such a great moment because we'll see later why the fact that the girls draw him in color resonates so deeply with him pertaining to Sonya.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then so he drives Marisol back home, and this is where you get Jimmy, and it was like, we didn't say it before, but like, so I think right before his attempt, before he goes to the train station, the stray cat that has been roaming the neighborhood is laying outside because it snowed. So it's like, it's laying outside and it looks like it's dead. But he was like, it's not dead. It's just, it fell asleep there.
Mm-hmm. So also, I want to just bring that up too, because it snows. So every morning, as soon as it snows, Otto always shovels his front sidewalk and like a little bit on either side for like his area. Mm-hmm. Like every morning he always shovels that. Yeah.
And so the cat, like, and this is like I said, this is what bothered me about Marisol. So like, they take the cat, Jimmy because Jimmy is on his regular walk. Yeah. He takes the cat to get the body to warm it up. And Marisol is like, oh, you can't take it in my house because I'm pregnant. And
toxoplasmosis, which is a very real thing with feral cats. Mm-hmm. Because feral cats or outdoor cats can sometimes have toxoplasmosis. That's very bad for fetuses and pregnant.
But she just automatically volunteered. And this, like I said, this is what bothered me. It was a very much she was bulldozing often and very obtuse on her impacts on other people. Yeah. Right. And like my friend was saying, that's just like Latin, like just like how Latins are. And it was like, with that's fine. But it was just like, there's still like, you need to understand your impact. And like, cause like my home is my sacred place. I don't want anybody barging in there and stuff like that. And it was like, that's what bothered me. So like once she volunteers Otto's house to like kind of warm the cat up. Yeah. And then just burst in. Yeah. And like goes straight to his stove to like warm up the cat.
So with that, she's like the true caricature of like the Latina woman who's just like, as your friend said, is just like very straightforward, very blunt, very much like, well, this is what we need to do, so we're going to do it anyway because I think this is what we should do.
But I think there is a switch. So she mentions something about, I guess the coat or like something, and Jimmy, who has a cat, who's holding the cat, he says, "Oh, that was Sonia's."
Yes. Yeah.
And he says that she.
I think it was about the countertops actually, because the countertops are low.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She sees the countertops are low. She's like, "Oh, did you also have a short?"
And I think that I didn't realize how the low comment, so that makes sense later. Yeah. But yeah, Jimmy says that Sonia had passed away, and this is where you finally see her click and realize. And it was like after she like softened up and realized kind of what she was doing, she became a more likable character to me. Okay, fair. Because it was less of this bulldozer. Right? Yeah. Now I think the movie was trying to show that her interferences were like prolong Otto's life long enough so that he can have this change of heart. But it was just like, you don't know you're doing that. You're just being, in my eyes, she was just being an asshole. Like it kept bothering me.
I get that because it is very much we as the audience know that because she's doing this, as you said, Otto keeps living. But that also doesn't mean that's what you should do in life. Yeah, like you should not just automatically always barge in on people and force them to do whatever you want to do.
But like I said, once she realizes, oh, he's suffered a loss. And her whole demeanor changes. Yeah. But yeah, so jumping back, Otto, goes to the train station, meets Marisol, comes back, and Jimmy's like, brings the cat back and is like, I forgot that I'm allergic.
Because Jimmy's just the dumb neighbor. Yeah.
So now Otto has to take the cat in.
Yeah. I don't know what Jimmy does because he doesn't do it. Like Jimmy just goes for walks and hangs out with everyone in the neighborhood. I'm like,
well, I think that's what it very much one-dimensional characters. Yes. Everyone, for the most part.
Everyone is very one-dimensional.
It was like they have their quirk and that's it. Yeah. That's who they are. So which kind of takes away from the characters. Yeah. Because the only one they really delved into was Otto. I think they tried a little bit with Marisol. When you see when he babysits,
and you saw a little bit of like Anita and Ruben, I guess a little bit.
Yeah. But they bring after his attempt, a suicide attempt at the train station. They go back and Jimmy brings the cat back to Otto. So now he is the owner of
here you go
of this stray cat. And this is where he has another exchange with Malcolm. He has another exchange with Malcolm,
the real estate guy.
Malcolm is the paper boy.
Oh, Malcolm's the paper boy.
So he's frustrated at the paper boy, and so he's barking at him a bit. And Malcolm says, "You're Mr. Anderson, right?" Yeah. And it was like he mentioned Sonia and then we find out that Sonia was a teacher at the high school or wherever it was. and Malcolm was one of her students. Mm-hmm. And he says that, she was one of the few teachers that saw me as me.
Yeah.
And he mentions that he's, transgender. Yep. He had transitioned from a woman to a man. Mm-hmm. And Sonia was the first teacher to call him by his new name.
Yes.
And get the other teachers to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, this is, Otto softens at this.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
because Sonia's interacting with us too.
And sorry.
So then Otto asks him his name.
Yeah.
And then that's how you see Malcolm is his name, the paperboy, and then you see that of like interaction too. And Otto was like, I can't remember what he said, something like that's a great name or something. It was very much one of those like, great to meet you, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it just shows like Otto's not a bigot. Which in so many ways you see.
And that's what I think. That's what you're talking about, the digs at the different commentaries trying to make, right? So it made the commentary about how a certain demographic would rather be online or whatever, like, and rather than help. Yeah. In this same way, you would assume that since he's a grumpy old man, he would be a bigot. He'd be like, he wouldn't understand anything about gender, sexuality, anything like that. But he was very much like, cool. Yeah. Like, it wasn't something that he questioned or anything like that. He very much just took this person as who they wanted to be.
Who they are, which is really nice. Yeah.
And then, so as he's outside with Malcolm, he sees that I think the dog lady's boyfriend was giving Marisol driving lessons.
Yes. Yeah.
And she was doing very poorly. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I can't let an idiot teach.
Yeah.
And so because she had asked him earlier to teach her to drive, he was like, no, a hard pass.
Yeah.
And so he takes her out for a drive, and you see her kind of like very nervous. Mm-hmm. I was wondering why he took her out like on a road test.
He was immediately like, yeah, cool.
You don't go to a parking lot or something. Mm-hmm. So he takes her on a road test. She's, not understanding, because also she's driving a not automatic car.
Yeah, she's driving a stick shift.
Yes, which is obviously a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, for the record, I don't know how to drive a stick shift. I was like, I need to learn how to drive a stick. Yeah.
So one thing to note, like, so he went over, knocked on the door to say, like, he was taking her for a driver lesson.
Yeah.
And that means leaving Tommy with the kids. And I really love, trying to delve deep into this character. So obviously he's got crutches because he broke his leg. Mm-hmm. But when they leave, he goes, no more grown-ups.
Yeah, no more grown-ups are here.
And then they go back to play. I think that he was wrestling with the girls.
They're playing with like luchador figures while wearing luchador masks.
And I thought that was like very cute. It showed the type of like man he was, the type of dad he was.
Yeah.
And so like they go for a drive. Otto has an exchange with a driver because he's like beeping at Marisol and it's making her nervous and stuff like that. He gives a speech about like how strong she is. She's not an idiot.
Yeah.
Like you handle a family, like you can handle figuring out how to drive.
Because Marisol was born in El Salvador, moved to Mexico, and then moved to America later, married to Tommy, has a family, all this other stuff. So, and it's a very like, just like, you are an amazing person. You have done all these things. You have given birth. You're about to give birth again. It's very like a inspirational kind of story. It's like, you are not an idiot. You can do this.
Yes.
But also what you see, is Otto being aggressive because he resorts to violence again. Just when the guy's beeping, he literally hops out and like yanks his dude out of the truck and pushes him against. I'm like, Jesus. Like,
you got a problem?
Yeah. I'm like, all right. So
there's fisticuffs?
Yeah, just some inconsistent messaging of like Otto with all these other ways. They're just clashing viewpoints with going. So I was like, with how progressive he is, all these other stuff he has going on, this is twice now he has assaulted people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you shouldn't assault people. Just throwing that out there.
And so he takes Marisol to a bakery. Yet he always visits I think maybe Saturday.
I think it was every Saturday they'd go with Sonia. Yeah, he and Sonia would go.
To have a certain pastry. And we get this exchange where he starts giving more background about Sonia.
Yeah.
So he talks about the early days in the neighborhood. And you see this this montage of Sonia, Anita, like becoming friends. And so because of that, so do Otto and Ruben.
Because Otto and Ruben are very similar. Like they both care about chasing people out from that no-through road. You know?
And it was like, so that patrolling neighborhood ran the HOA. And then I didn't get the exchange with the cars. Like, so like,
it was just,
you might be a bigger car guy than me.
Not really. It's just Otto's a Chevy guy and Ruben was a Ford guy. Yeah. So it was just the whole clash of like, why are you getting that crap? And like,
it was just like, there's several iterations of different cars that they got, and it kind of like, I think they had a falling out because of like something. Like I think that there was a coup or whatever. And
that was when he got kicked out of the homeowners.
Yeah. And then so Otto tries to bury the hatchet.
Yeah.
He brings Ruben this, I guess, nice whiskey.
Chivas Regal, I think. Yeah. Decent whiskey. Yeah.
And like Ruben and this is when they're a bit older. So it started out when they were maybe early 20s, something like that. And he was like, this is when they're a bit older. Mm-hmm. And he attempts to, and this is obviously before Ruben has had his stroke and is confined to the wheelchair. He gives Ruben the whiskey, and like Ruben shows off his new car, and it's like, it's
a Toyota.
And immediately, Otto's like, nope, I tried.
I did everything I could. All right. He feels we're going to bury the hatchet after and be friends again. Sees a Toyota. No. We don't do that anymore.
And so one thing that was interesting, so he mentioned talking about Sonia, and he said, he says, my life was in black and white. Yes. Sonia was the color.
Yes.
And I think, like he was saying, I think that's what something sparked in him, the fact that the girls drew all his pictures in color. Mm-hmm. And kind of him realizing that he is this light. He can be this light. Yeah. The same way that Sonia was a light for him.
For sure.
And then Marisol asked him to babysit the girls because they want to, Marisol and Tommy want to go out on a date before the new baby comes, you know.
Yeah.
And so this is where once again, you see more exchanges with Otto and the girls. Yep. He fixes the dishwasher. Mm-hmm. And then I think it was funny too, like this is where you get like, I guess kids being like precocious.
Yeah.
And then he was like, what's that over there? He was like, that's the goddamn dishwasher.
Yeah,
the
little girl saying that. Yeah.
So he was like, whoa.
Yeah, because that's what Tommy was telling Marisol about it. Yeah. Because they didn't know how to install the dishwasher, which is a pain in the butt. It's not that hard. Mm-hmm. It's just a bunch of tubes underneath the sink.
So Otto installs that for them, and on his way home after they get back, he sees Malcolm, and he says, you don't hear your bike like clicking or something.
Oh, yeah.
And he fixes his bike.
Mm-hmm. Was this before or after the social media journalist came along?
This is right before.
Right before. Okay. Cool.
And then, so like you said, so they were during his rescue on the platform. Mm-hmm. People were taking videos. The social media journalist comes to find him, and this is first he's driving through the throughway as Jimmy is doing his daily walk.
Yeah,
and he's like, she's driving, and he refuses to actually stop walking. So he's like slow motion lunging, and she goes, "Do you know where Otto Anderson is?" And he goes, "Are you sure you want to do that?"
Yeah, he's like, "I want to talk to him." He's like, "Are you sure you want to actually talk?" Yeah.
And so, like, she tries to talk to him. He was like, "No, I don't. You know, I don't want to be. I'm not a hero. Like, I don't care." Mm-hmm. Marisol comes to ask him something.
Yeah, and then he doesn't want Marisol to know that he saved someone's life.
And I think this is where he has this, like, kind of a little bit of a freak out where he says, I wrote it down. The more they babble, the more they drown out the sound of her voice. Mm-hmm. And I think he starts kind of freaking out a bit, and his heart.
Oh, well, this is after the journalist leaves,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah, so then the journalist leaves because he, like, locks the journalist in the garage. He doesn't lock, but he closes the garage door on the journalist. Mm-hmm. Then he hides in his house. She leaves. Him and Marisol go for a round. And then Marisol is trying to, like, talk to him a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So we see, like, his heart's beating a bit more and more. And then Marisol offers to, like, help him clean out stuff.
Yes, because she noticed the coats in the on the and once again, still being not as pushy now. Like I said, I've softened to her now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But he kind of freaks out at the idea of getting rid of these things.
Yeah, because Marisol is telling him, like, well, you need to move on so you can keep living.
Mm-hmm. And then because she mentions her when her father passed, her mother stopped living.
So, and then, which is just such a, and this is why I like the movie, it's just such a commentary on, like, when your loved one, like, you with this person you've loved for years and years and years, when they pass, how do you go on? And it's how do you deal with that grief? So with that, Marisol's like, I want you to do that. And Otto's like, I don't want to move on. She was everything. Yeah. And then he just yells at her, and then, like, but he's clearly, his heart's beating because it's too big, and like he has a heart issue. So then he, like, goes and leaves her, and then, like,
he goes in the house, locks the door. She tries to, because she notices the heart thing.
She knows something's bugging him.
But he locks her out, and this is where you kind of see him go upstairs to load up the shotgun. And as he goes upstairs, you see a cradle.
Yes,
and so, like, there's also a flash of Sonia back in the day pregnant.
Yeah,
and so he buys, I guess, like a shower curtain or just plastic, I assume like a shower curtain or something. Yeah, plastic shower curtain. And he tapes up the living room once again, preparing to another attempt at suicide.
He has a double-barrel shotgun. He's planning.
Yes. Yeah. And so as he's sitting there, he has it's like, I think he's propping it up with his foot, has it directly underneath his chin, sitting in the middle of the living room. He has a flashback of, I think, a very pivotal moment between him and Sonia. And they went to Niagara Falls because I think she wanted to She wanted to do one last trip before.
Well, they'd never been on vacation.
They'd never
been on vacation before. She's 6 months pregnant, so they went to Niagara Falls, and to have a vacation. They love it. It's a great time, and they're on a bus.
Yes,
and they're coming back from the bus from Niagara Falls,
and so they're on the bus. Otto gets up to go to the bathroom, and when he's in the bathroom, there's I think an oncoming bus or something. Like that.
Yeah, they're going around a bend. Yeah, they're going around a bend, so something happens,
and the bus flips. Mm-hmm. Otto is surprisingly he's fine, being the fact that he wasn't
even in a seat. Yeah,
but he crawls out of the bus. It is on its side, and he's looking for Sonia.
Yeah,
and he screams her name or whatever, and then the next thing it flashes to Sonia in a hospital bed.
Yep. Yeah.
She's bandaged up. I think she's in a coma of some sort, and he's just sitting there waiting. And it was initially you see that she is still pregnant.
Yeah,
but I think as the time goes on. And she wakes up, she has to come to terms. He has to tell her that she's lost.
Flat. Yeah, she's pregnant at first, and then when she wakes up, her stomach's now flat, and then you're like, oh, okay.
Yes, so she's lost a baby, so she's devastated by that. Mm-hmm. And then I think this is when he sees her, I guess a reflection of her in the living room with him.
Yeah,
saying that you need to live. And I think that's what was interesting, talking about the whole Marisol's interference. That's what I thought it was going to be like. Marisol is this kind of angel, this savior.
Yeah,
but it was very much, it was still him. Mm-hmm. Obviously the attempts kept failing.
Yeah.
In a way, but it was just at the end, it wasn't Marisol saving him. It was kind of some reincarnation of his wife being
it was his wife's words, because they were really upset. Otto was really angry, and so he wanted to kind of sue everybody, wouldn't let it go, because obviously they had lost their child, and also Sonia. We learned later, Sonia was paralyzed from the waist down,
and that's what when you said the loweredness, I didn't peep it until until then, but it was everything was lowered because she was in a wheelchair.
Yeah. So then, but Sonia's words to him, and we'll learn this again later, because they kind of reveal stuff from the past as the movie goes along. And you can bring it back. Her words were, I know you're angry, I know you're upset, but it's important that we live. It's important that we can move on.
Yes.
We need to live. Mm-hmm. So because he has that vision, he still pulls the trigger.
No. He doesn't pull it. So it's just he changes his mind.
Yeah.
And then there's a bang on it, because people don't know how to ring a doorbell.
Yeah.
There's a banging on the door, and that's when the gun goes off. It's kind of a reaction to being shocked by the door, not that he was trying to hit him.
Yeah. He wasn't trying to pull it. It was it was off to the side. But the knock shocked him after he'd already moved his head. So then, boom, now there's a hole.
And there's Malcolm at the door, and he says that his father kicked him out because he refuses to. He can't understand why his daughter, his former daughter, wants to be is dressing as a boy and all these different things like that. So he kicked him out, and Otto invites him in. He takes him. He lets him stay in some room. I don't know. I don't know what the.
It was Sonia's office.
Okay, I wasn't sure the significance of the room.
Yeah, this is the first time we've seen it too. We haven't gone back. And then we even see, because we didn't know Sonia was paralyzed from the waist down, when
you see the chair,
you see the wheelchair next to the couch, and Malcolm has kind of a moment looking at the wheelchair, because he associates that with Miss Anderson, Sonia, because that was his teacher.
And so the next morning. Otto wakes up and he reaches over for the cat, because obviously he has a cat.
Yeah,
now,
the cat's been there with him,
and the cat lays in Sonia's spot on the bed, and he reaches over. Because there was flashes of him constantly reaching over to, because he's so used to her being there. But then the cat also wasn't there, and the cat's downstairs eating, because Malcolm is cooking breakfast.
Yep.
And it was this is when I realized when you're talking about the things that he cut off.
Yeah.
Because Marisol had mentioned the lights and the I guess because it was very cold in the house.
Yep. Yeah.
But the stove was still running, and that's why I was confused. But the gas still works. So cooking the eggs, because the refrigerator is obviously not working. So he said, I wouldn't say no to that.
Yeah. And then they go on rounds.
And then he goes on rounds. He was then this is you see that change. So it's he invites Jimmy to go on a round. No, sorry, he invites Malcolm to go on a round.
Yeah.
And Jimmy joins it.
Because Jimmy's Jimmy. And he joins. Yeah.
And this is when he's walking, he's doing the rounds with Jimmy and Malcolm. Jimmy mentions that Anita and Ruben are moving out. Or Ruben's being moved to a facility because they don't think that Anita can take care of him because she was diagnosed with Parkinson's a year before.
Yeah, and their estranged son Chris, who we haven't seen, and Anita and Ruben haven't seen in years and years. Anita gave him power of attorney, so then the real estate guy Mike Birbiglia has called Chris and been like, "Hey, sell this house," and Chris has been like, "Yep, sure, I'll sell the house," even though he hasn't even talked to the parents or anything.
Yeah,
Chris is a dick.
Yeah. So Otto gets immediately upset, goes over to Anita and is like, "We're going to fight this."
Yeah.
And he apologizes to Ruben, saying like, and it was very interesting. He said he got so wrapped up in his troubles, he forgot about everybody else.
Yeah. Because what it did is Otto didn't know that Anita had Parkinson's, but even though Anita was diagnosed with it over a year ago, so we learned Sonia was still alive.
Yeah, that's what he was like. Yeah, he was like, why didn't he tell? Why didn't she tell?
Anita
Sonia?
would have told Sonia,
and Sonia would have told him. So it was just like, it doesn't make sense.
I mean, they're like, and they said because Otto and Sonia had so much stuff going on, they didn't want to burden them with anything else, and that's why Otto being like, oh well, I got so wrapped up in my own crap, I forgot about other people.
And so he asked for a certain amount of information, like certain documentations from Anita and Ruben, and then he goes over to Marisol saying, "Can I use your phone because we know his is turned off?" Yeah, and she kind of has this, and it pissed me off a bit, but she kind of has this like, "Well, no, like you locked me out the other day, like I was trying to help you, left me outside, and all this other thing." I was just like, "Woman, you have infiltrated this man's entire life,
but she was scared.
Him.
She was scared. He
asked for your phone, and I was like, no, if she wasn't like drop kick." But then, so he finally, like, and you're right, she is right in a way, like she was just looking out for him. But he finally like admits to like what happened to Sonia. So after the bus crash, he wanted to sue the driver, the bus company, and like there's something faulty with the manufacturing of the bus that they didn't get checked.
The brake lines were recalled. Bus actually never recalled the brake lines. Yes. They were at fault because the brakes are out.
And then at that same time, the developers had come in because I think she was in the hospital for like 3 months. Yeah. And in that time, the developers had come in and they were trying to buy people out, and they hadn't put in ramps or anything like that for people with disabilities.
Because back in like the 70s, that wasn't a thing. Yeah. They didn't have to follow all those codes. So they basically just kind of kept Sonia out of all this. And because she had a wheelchair now, and they didn't really care. And they didn't try to do anything.
And so like this is the coup that Otto had mentioned earlier between him and Ruben is the fact that he kind of like, they go to a HOA meeting or some meeting with the developers. Yeah. And he kind of freaks out because of the fact that he's angry about Sonia. He's angry about all these different things. And he kind of lashes out. Yeah. So they kind of kick him out of being the president of the Homeowners Association. And he says, I think he lived for Sonia. Like he had kind of admitted to because she says, why is your phone turned off? Why is your house in the way it is? And he was saying he lived for Sonia and he was trying to go be with her.
He was planning on,
and I think Marisol respects the fact that he's open up to her. And so lets him use her phone. Yeah. And then the next scene, you see Birbiglia, like the real estate.
Mike Birbiglia. Yeah.
The real estate developer coming with a van from like some assisted living
to like move them out,
to move Ruben out. And Otto is sitting on Anita and Ruben's front porch with his cat, and he's like. The real estate agent was like, "You can't do anything about this. If you do, I'll have you arrested." He's like, "I'm not going to do anything.
I'm good." He's just petting his cat.
Yeah. And then you see Otto had called the social media journalist, and is documenting the fact that because early on, the real estate developer had mentioned something about Otto's heart, which is very private, like medical information that he should not have information about. And he mentioned, we got files on everybody. Yeah. So the same thing, he realized that. The only people that knew about the Anita's Parkinson's were very limited. Not even Chris knew.
Yeah, not even her son knew.
Not even her son knew because they're estranged and he lives in Japan or Thailand.
Yeah, I think Japan.
Japan?
Yeah, the real estate agent called Chris and told him that Anita had Parkinson's.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, like, because of that, now, like, obviously, he's being videotaped. They kind of just back off. Yeah. And then this is very much a victory for the people in the neighborhood. And as they're celebrating, Otto collapses on the street. So they take him to the hospital. And I thought maybe he would die then, but it was like, I don't know.
It would have been way too cliche. Yeah, a little bit.
And so, like, we go to the hospital, and you find out that Otto had made Marisol his next of kin.
Yep.
And so she's there, and she finds out, and it's a very funny, and this is what I'm saying, she started growing on me.
Yeah.
I can't be that mad about her. But Marisol finds out about his enlarged heart.
Yeah.
And she's like, Otto's heart's too...
Yeah.
And like she's laughing.
Yeah.
And it was a very sweet exchange. And then she goes into labor.
Yep.
And she has her son.
Yep.
And I initially thought, and I was thankfully they didn't do the corny thing to name it Otto.
Oh,
I thought they were going to do that.
Oh, yeah.
But I think they named it Marco or something like that.
I think it was Marco. Yeah.
Okay. And then so once she's out of hospital, they're like, I think she has family over and like some of the neighbors.
Yeah.
Otto comes over and you realize that he's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He brings them the crib
that he made by hand.
That he had made for he and Sonia's child. I think they were also going to have
a boy. Yeah.
And so Marisol lets him hold the baby. Mm-hmm. And he's like kind of like weird initially, but it was like, he says, let me show you how this crib works.
Yeah.
Like, you mean lay in it? I don't know.
You're actually laying the baby down.
Which is very cute. Mm-hmm. He gives, so after that,
mm-hmm.
sorry.
Yeah.
Or maybe before that, sorry. So he gives Malcolm his car because Malcolm had mentioned earlier that he worked 3 jobs
so he could buy
a car. So Otto gives Malcolm his car and then buys a truck.
An electric truck because product placement.
I kept telling you, I was just like, product placement.
Yeah, I was pretty sure.
It did look like a Chevy Tahoe commercial.
Yeah.
Is this a Lincoln commercial?
Around. Yeah.
And so he buys a new truck. And he invites to take Sonia and her family for a ride. Mm-hmm. And
he just permanently leaves Tommy. Whenever he goes anywhere,
he does not like Tommy.
He does not like Tommy. Yeah.
And I didn't realize that until he was just like, I guess, I'll be here with the kid though.
Yeah.
And so he takes Sonia and the girls, and eventually Tommy as well.
Yeah.
He takes Marisol and the girls and Tommy to see.
These are 2 separate things.
2 separate things. Yeah. But he takes them to see Sonia.
Yes.
And he says, I told you about them and stuff like that. And it's a very sweet moment.
Yeah.
The girls leave flowers for her, and I believe a luchador or something like that.
A little luchador action figure. That might have been even later for Otto. But this is something which it did take me out a little bit. Was the flowers were pink, and then he was like, "Oh, Sonia's favorite color was pink. She loved pink flowers, so you did well, girls." And then Tommy's like, "I like pink too." And then like Otto glares at him for liking pink, and I'm like, Otto, you can't be like so progressive about so many things, my dude.
I think he just did not like Tommy. It didn't matter what he said.
But that was something, and that took me out of it. It's like Otto is so progressive, so caring. But
I think that was like kind of a running gag.
And that's like the gag. But I'm like, I didn't like that gag. Straight up, I did not like that gag.
I didn't see it as him not liking the fact that he liked pink. Mm-hmm. I just thought he really thought that Tommy was an idiot.
I thought it was because he said that Tommy didn't like pink. Or
Tommy liked pink. I didn't see it as that. But
it could have been. He was just like, "Why are you telling Tommy?" Yeah.
And then so like you were saying, so like a few years later, I want to say 3. The little boy looked about 3.
Yeah, well, because it was you look at Sonia died in 2018.
He was in 2022.
So
maybe about 3 years.
Yeah, it's like 3.5 years. I'd say. Yeah.
So 3 years later, Marisol and her family are having breakfast, and they get a knock on the door for something.
For a package.
And Tommy notices, not an idiot.
Yeah.
He notices that, once again, it had also been 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tommy notices that Otto hasn't, he checks the time and he notices that Otto hasn't shoveled his front wall.
It snowed, and he hasn't shoveled.
And so, like, immediately there's an alarm.
Yep.
Like, it raises an alarm in Marisol's head, so they get his key. So you do see, like, different pictures of Otto and the girls, like, taking them fishing.
Yeah.
And, like,
they've gone on lots of adventures in their electric truck.
Yeah.
And I think Chevy has an electric truck. Anyway.
And so Marisol and Tommy rush over to Otto's house, open the door, run upstairs, and they see that Otto is laying on the bed.
Yeah. He stood up and then like collapsed.
Yes.
And he's laying on the bed.
And so like Marisol is like standing over his body, and Tommy's looking in the room, and he sees that there's a letter addressed to Marisol, and it's like just this letter saying, it was like, if you're reading this, I passed away. I knew it was coming. The doctor said that I would live a long time, but ultimately it was going to get me.
Yeah.
And you see that he's made requests for like his funeral, but he's also given them everything. He's like, his house, the truck. He said, don't let Tommy drive it once. I think he just hates Tommy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
he leaves money for the kids to go to school, and then whatever else you do, whatever you want with it. Yeah. And then you see, at his funeral, like there's the social media journalist is like taking videos of people coming out and kind of paying tributes. Yeah. You see that Malcolm and Jimmy still live there, and they're doing the patrols. In the neighborhood
in honor of Otto. Yeah. You see everyone, and everyone came out.
Even the dog lady came out. Yeah. So it's just like, you see this is a well-attended funeral. So you see that in the 3 years since the Mighty Soul Arm family moved in. Yeah. And he's stopped, attempting to. He started living. Yeah. And that's the end of the movie.
That's the end of the movie. Yeah. And then while the credits roll, you see a ton of pictures of Otto with Marisol, the girls, Tommy, and everyone. For the past 3 years, they went on vacations together. They hung out. Everyone calls him Abuelo Otto. So very touching movie. So at the end of everything, we always like to say, Mike, did your opinion on the movie change at all while we were reviewing?
No, I'd still say a solid 3. Yeah. Good movie. Like I said, it little cliched now and then, but it did surprise me in a way, especially like with, I guess, not making it this grumpy old man who's set in his ways or something like that. So did enjoy it. Solid movie. Still 3.
Yeah, I'd say 3.5. Honestly, even though with the long run time, it felt like they just kind of, as I said, plugged things in as a way to make him more endearing and make him be like, oh, he's fine with certain things. He's such a lovable guy. He's so progressive. And you're like, they were good points, but then they didn't flesh them out as much as they could have. But also with a 2 hour and 6 minute movie, can you really do that? But yeah, I think it's a great movie that really talked about loneliness in our elders as well, and grieving process. And again, it really made me be like, I need to make sure I'm talking to them. Which they live 20, 30 minutes away, so I do try to see them at least once, twice a month. But but it's one of those where it's there's a lot there, and especially when there's grief that happens, it's important. Also, I want to say before we head out too, since we talked about a lot about suicide here, if you do need any help with that, please reach out to somebody. There's a lot of crisis hotlines out there. Unfortunately, I don't have the number off the top of my head.
I believe if you text 988 now, I believe.
Yeah, which would be great. And the movie had that same at the end too of if you know anyone in crisis, please reach out. But yeah, this movie does touch on suicide a lot, so please take time to do that. But thank you so much for listening, everybody. We are the Two Meddling Kids. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can email us at twomedlingkids@gmail.com. If you'd like to find us on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, we are the Two Meddling Kids. Mike, how can they reach you if you'd like to talk to you?
On Instagram at Days from Legendary.
Awesome. And if you'd like to reach out to me personally, Twitter and Instagram, I'm EdHunt77. But thank you so much for listening, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next week. See you soon. Bye.